What's up, everybody? This is Zanny Cakes, and I'm here with another Path of Diablo video for you. And today we're going to be talking all about mercenaries. I see a lot of people asking questions like, what is the best mercenary? Or what is the best infinity base? Which mercenary should I use? And so I made this video to hopefully answer some of those questions. I went to the Path of Diablo analytics website and picked all of the top builds for each class. And in this video, I go over what the best mercenary is to use for those builds, as well as what the best in-slot gear setups are. And while there are a lot of good mercenary builds that are out there, these ones were chosen by how much of a benefit it is to the build that you are playing, as well as the best defensive and heal sustain stats that you can get for your mercenary. With every build in this video, I give my recommended socketables for each build. It is important that you get the increased attack speed jewels, but anything that is not an increased attack speed jewel can be filled up with whatever you want. I suggest a lot of bear runes throughout the video, as the damage reduction is very helpful for keeping your mercenary alive, but you can replace anything that is not an increased attack speed jewel with whatever you would like. I did make a Google Docs spreadsheet that has each of the runeword bases, as well as what their average damage is, their weapon speed, what the optimal breakpoint you can hit for increased attack speed with them is, and then I have what is my recommended best in slot gear for each mercenary build depending on what you are going for. There is a link in the description below if you are interested in looking at the spreadsheet itself, as well as I will include timestamps for each of the builds that I go over in this video. And if you find the video to be useful or you enjoy it, please give me a like and subscribe, as I would really appreciate it and it really helps me out. And leave me a comment down below for what your favorite mercenary build is. And with that, let's get into it. So let's start off with the Amazon. The most popular Amazon build right now would be multi-shot with Faith and immolation arrow to support that. And for this build, I have two different recommended mercenary setups. The first one would be a Silence Act 5 mercenary. This mercenary will boost your multi-shot damage with Might aura, and then with Silence, it will also give you the Cleanse aura, which helps get rid of curses as well as poisons. With a level 14 or higher fanaticism, you need 30 increased attack speed on your mercenary, not including the weapon. So our gear setup is a Silence Colossus Blade, a 3-socketed Vampire's Gaze, and a 4-socketed Shaft Stop. In the Vampire's Gaze, we put a Splash with increased attack speed jewel, a Cham rune, and an increased attack speed jewel with whatever else you can get on it. And in the Shaft Stop, we put Lo Vex Vex. The reason that we are using Vampire's Gaze with Leech over the life on hit that you would gain from Steel Shade is because using an Ethereal Colossus Blade base with Might aura and Fanaticism aura, your mercenary will get significantly more healing from using a Leech style healing as opposed to a life on hit style healing. We use the Cham rune for Cannot Be Frozen, rune to cap out resistances, the Low rune is for maximum lightning resistances, and the double Vex rune would be for the increase of fire resistance to help your mercenary stay alive against Hydras. Between the Shaft Stop giving 30% damage reduction and the Vampire's Gaze giving up to 20% damage reduction, you can hit the 50% damage reduction cap, meaning you will have max resistances with fire being 85, lightning being 80, and then you will also have max damage reduction and the best healing sustain that you can get. For an Act 2 Pride mercenary setup, I also chose to go with the Leech route, as with the level 14 Fanaticism aura, the Conviction aura, and then using a Pride runeword in an Ethereal Cryptic Axe, your healing is significantly higher than you can heal with a Steel Shade. With a decent steel shade, you're looking at roughly 70 life gained on hit. With the Pride Mercenary setup, you're looking at closer to 400. This setup does require quite a bit of increased attack speed and is quite a bit more expensive than the Act 5 Mercenary setup, but will increase your overall damage from your Amazon more than the Act 5 Mercenary would. Gear for the Act 5 Pride Mercenary with Leech would be a Pride Cryptic Axe and Dariel's Visage with an increased attack speed plus Splash Jewel, another increased attack speed jewel, and a Ral Rune, and then a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with 3 increased attack speed jewels and an Rune. This gets you the highest damage output for your Leech heal, as well as will provide you with 30% damage reduction, as well as max resistances. The second Amazon build that we have is the Javazon. There's either the pure lightning variant or the hybrid poison and lightning variant. On either one, the best mercenary that I would recommend would be a life on hit infinity mercenary. For this build, you would use an infinity man catcher with steel shade, socketed with a splash and increased attack speed jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, and a 4-socketed shaft stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a cham rune for cannot be frozen, and 2 bear runes for the extra damage reduction. A slight variant to this would be using an infinity thresher or giant thresher, and you swap out 1 bear rune for an increased attack speed jewel. This will provide you with the same breakpoints for your increased attack speed, but your mercenary will do roughly 18% more damage, but will lose 8% damage reduction. I would recommend this route for the pure lightning Javazon, as it will help you kill anything that is still immune to lightning after infinity. As far as assassins go, we had one overall build, which is the hybrid flame traps with blades of ice. There were also several variants of this build, but in each of those variants, your best mercenary would be an Act 2 Infinity Mercenary, using the offensive mercenary from Act 2 for the Blessed Aim aura. Using the Blessed Aim aura is more beneficial to you than the healing that you gain from prayer or the defense that you gain from a Defiance mercenary. And in this build, I would also recommend an Infinity Mercenary with Life on Hit as your main source of healing. So you want an Infinity Man Catcher, a Steel Shade with a Splash and increased attack speed jewel, another increased attack speed jewel, and a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a cham rune, and 2 bear runes. The Infinity Mercenary will increase your damage with both traps and blades of ice, as well as the -2 defense portion of Conviction will also help out your blades of ice hit that much more often. The top build for barbarians would be the Whirlwind build. For this build, I have 2 recommended mercenaries. The first would be a Act 5 mercenary using Plague and Life on Hit. This gives you Might aura and a higher level Cleanse aura than you would get if you were to use the Silence variant of the Act 5 mercenary. For the Act 5 Plague mercenary, we want to use a Plague Phase Blade, a Steel Shade with a Splash and increased attack speed jewel in it, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, as well as a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with a Cham Rune, a Bear Rune, a Vex Rune, and an Rune. For the Act 2 Pride Mercenary, I would recommend getting the offensive mercenary for Blessed Aim aura and using a Pride with Leech setup. And in this build, you would use a Pride Warpike with Andariel's Visage, socketed with a Cham Rune, a Ral Rune, and an Rune, and a Shaft Stop socketed with an increased attack speed and Splash Jewel, as well as 3 other increased attack speed jewels. The most popular Druid build is the Avatar build. This build focuses on using Flame Dash to Telestomp, as well as gets Hurricane and Tornado. This build does cold and fire damage, but also does physical spell damage, which is not affected by any of the enhanced damage auras like Might or fanaticism. The cold damage from Hurricane is fairly minimal, and the fire damage doesn't benefit all that greatly from the use of Infinity. My top recommended mercenary for this would be an Act 2 defensive mercenary using a Doom runeword with a life on hit setup. And this build would be a Doom Mancatcher, a Steel Shade with an increased attack speed and splash jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, and a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a Cham rune for Cannot Be Frozen, and 2 Bear runes for added damage reduction. The slow effect from the Holy Freeze aura on Doom actually stacks with the slow effect from Chilled aura from the cold damage on Hurricane, which provides an added level of utility to this build. Two other options would be an Insight Mercenary for mana regeneration. On this build, you would use an Insight Mancatcher, a Steel Shade with a splash and increased attack speed jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, and a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a Cham rune, and 2 Bear runes. And a third option for the Avatar Druid would be an Act 3 offensive mercenary for the Meditation aura, using a Plague Phase Blade for the Cleanse aura, a Steel Shade socketed with a Splash Jewel and an rune, a Storm Shield socketed with 2 Bear runes and 2 runes, and a 4 open-socketed Gladiator's Bane, socketed with 2 Mal runes and 2 Soul runes. This mercenary gives you hardly any damage support, but is extremely tanky, and provides you with the highest level meditation and cleanse auras that you can get on a mercenary. The first Necromancer build I would like to talk about would be the Poison and Corpse Explosion, or Summoner and Corpse Explosion build. For these builds, you want a Act 2 defensive mercenary with Infinity life on hit setup. And this setup would be an Infinity Mancatcher, a Steel Shade with a splash and increased attack speed jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, a Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a Cham rune, and 2 Bear runes. Another good mercenary setup, as well as the one that I personally use, is the Act 3 mercenary with Plague and Life on Hit setup. This is a Plague Phase Blade, a Steel Shade, a Storm Shield, and a Gladiator's Bane. While the Infinity setup will overall help your damage output with both Summons and Corpse Explosion, or Poison and Corpse Explosion. These builds are very mana intensive, and having the higher level meditation and cleanse auras are very good utility and will significantly decrease your potion consumption. The other top Necromancer build would be the Hemorrhage Necro. Hemorrhage does not benefit from any auras that you can get on a mercenary, so your best builds for the Hemorrhage Necro would either be the Doom Life on Hit setup or the Insight Life on Hit setup. For the Doom setup, you would use a Doom Mancatcher, a Steel Shade with an increased attack speed and splash jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, and then a Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a Cham rune, and 2 Bear runes. If you choose to go with the Insight path, then you would just simply swap out the Doom for a Insight Mancatcher. The top Paladin build is a Fist of the Heavens Paladin. The vast majority of their damage comes from magic damage from the Holy Bolts procced off of Fist of the Heavens. They get no benefit from Might auras or Conviction aura on Infinity. So my number one recommendation would be the Doom Mercenary using a Life on Hit setup. For this, we want a Doom Mancatcher, a Steel Shade with an increased attack speed and splash jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a Cham, and 2 Bear runes. If you are more interested in mana regeneration, an Act 2 defensive mercenary with Insight, we'll use the exact same gear, but we'll swap out the Doom for an Insight Mancatcher. This build would also benefit very well from the Act 3 mercenary discussed in the Druid and Necromancer sections. The top sorceress build would be a lightning build. And for the lightning sorceress, you want to use the Infinity Act 2 mercenary with a life on hit setup. For this, you want an Infinity Mancatcher, a Steel Shade with a splash and increased attack speed jewel, as well as a second increased attack speed jewel, and a 4-socketed Shaft Stop with an increased attack speed jewel, a Cham rune, and 2 bear runes. The second most popular sorceress builds are cold variants, which would either be Blizzard or Freezing Pulse. Pure cold damage does not benefit all that much from Infinity, as Infinity breaks hardly any cold immunes and you already have enough minus resistances from facets as well as cold mastery to where the minus enemy resistances from conviction is not going to be that beneficial. For the cold sorceress builds, I would recommend an Act 2 defensive mercenary that uses a leech setup, and this would be an Insight Warpike with Andariel's Visage socketed with a Cham rune, a Ral rune, and an rune, and then a Shaft Stop socketed with an increased attack speed jewel with Splash, as well as 3 other increased attack speed jewels. The reason that we go for this setup over the life on hit setup is your mercenary will do significantly more damage than with the life on hit setup, which will help you kill the cold immunes much faster. So that covers all of the top builds from each class. And while any of these builds cannot guarantee that your mercenary will never die, especially in the higher end maps with ridiculous mods, they will give you the statistical best chance of your mercenary staying alive. I'd like to hear in the comments what your favorite meme mercenary builds are. The one I'm currently working on I call the Meme Merc King, which is an Act 3 mercenary that uses Last Wish, a 4-socketed Shaft Stop and Phoenix, and then a 1-socketed Crown with a Standard of Heroes in it. Once I have them all done, then I'm most likely going to use it on my Bowazon. I hope you found this video useful, or at least got some ideas on things that you can try to make your mercenaries a little bit better. And as always, good luck, have fun, and I hope to see you out there.